Oh my God.
Okay.
That is the best story I've ever heard of.
I know. Unfortunately, none of it's true.
What?
In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins, his debut solo single, is well known for featuring one of the most famous drum breaks in all of music history. But the full story behind the song is rather strange, from how that famous drum sound was achieved to the weird urban legend that it spawned after it was released about a gruesome murder. So what is the full story on this song? And if you love delving into music history like I do, make sure to subscribe and join our pack. Let's set the stage then. Phil Collins joined Genesis in 1970, back when the band was fronted by Peter Gabriel. When Gabriel left the band in August 1975, critics predicted doom for the remaining members: Collins, guitarist Steve Hackett, bassist Mike Rutherford, and keyboardist Tony Banks. Phil Collins initially suggested that to move forward, the band should become an instrumental band, but the other members quickly dismissed this because, well, they thought it'd be too boring. In October 1975, the band began rehearsals for A Trick of the Tail in Acton, London. Now, at this point, the band still hadn't found a vocalist, so they decided to produce the music first and then audition a singer later. They placed an anonymous ad in Melody Maker for a singer for a Genesis-type group, very on the nose, which attracted about 400 responses, none of which quite hit the mark. With no suitable replacement found, Collins decided he'd have a go himself, so he stepped into the recording booth, sung the vocals for Squonk, and the band loved it. So he became their new vocalist and recorded the vocals for the rest of the album. So Collins took on the dual role of drummer and lead vocalist. After 2 strong albums, Hackett departed for a solo career. This left Genesis as a trio: Collins, Rutherford, and Banks, who cheekily titled their next album, And Then There Were Three. The record included their first big hit, Follow You, Follow Me. Finally, their hard work was paying off. However, just as they were about to tour, Collins faced a personal crisis. His wife, frustrated by his prolonged absences, moved to Canada, and she gave him a sort of ultimatum: Genesis or family. Collins chose Genesis and went on tour. A divorce quickly followed, and devastated by this, Collins began writing some deeply personal and emotional songs. While some, like Misunderstanding, were used by Genesis, others didn't fit the band's style. As a sort of therapy, Collins began to record these songs himself, including In the Air Tonight. Now, this started life as just music, there were no lyrics, and once he was ready to add some vocals, he simply pressed play on the track and sung whatever came to him. Completely improvised. And in terms of what these improvised lyrics are actually about, well, at the time, Collins didn't really know. He later said, "I'm not quite sure what the song is about, but there's a lot of anger, a lot of despair, and a lot of frustration." The song served as the first single to his debut album, Face Value. All the original songs on the Face Value album, including the follow-up hit I Missed Again, were written as sort of messages to his ex-wife. The songs for the album were written over a year and a half, with some coming together overnight, like In the Air Tonight. The demo for In the Air Tonight started life as a preset drum pattern for a CR78 drum machine. Now, Collins programmed a bass drum part into it, but most of the original pattern was already there. From there, he added a Prophet 5 synth, an acoustic grand piano, and a Fender Rhodes electric piano. While Collins did have a drum kit in his home studio, there was a reason he chose to use the machine instead. In a 1999 documentary, he said the mood that the drum machine produced couldn't possibly be recreated with real drums, and that the drum machine provides an atmosphere of relentlessness. He added his vocals to the track with a simple vocoder, and that was the original demo completed. He would also record further, slightly varying demos, which are all littered about the internet for you to find if you want. While delivering the Genesis album Duke to Atlantic Records executive Ahmet Ertegun in London, Collins shared some solo demos with him. Now, Ertegun was very impressed with these demos, and he encouraged Collins to pursue the project and offered support. Now, Collins was unwilling to re-record the demo tracks, so he actually used them as masters in the recording, and he roped in engineer Hugh Padgham to help out. Padgham, who had previously worked with Collins on Peter Gabriel's third album, had discovered a groundbreaking drum sound at Townhouse Studios using its new SSL console. Now, this special console, one of the first with built-in compressors and noise gates on every channel, allowed for a more immediate experimentation with the sound. It was also one of the first to feature a thing called reverse talkback. Now, this allowed engineers to listen to the musicians with a dedicated microphone in the studio without having to set up any additional equipment. Now, this mic had a very heavy compressor, making even distant sounds in the studio sound perfectly clear. During a session, Collins was playing drums while Padgham had the reverse talkback engaged. The compressed sound it produced was stunning, and Padgham immediately recognized its potential. However, the setup wasn't designed for recording. To solve this, Padgham had the console modified overnight, creating a split output for the compressor that could be patched into the board and routed to the tape recorder. So this accidental discovery of a reverse talkback function never intended to be used for recording is what led to the famous drum sound of In the Air Tonight. 6 months later, Padgham joined Collins as co-producer on Face Value, including the track In the Air Tonight. Now, Collins transferred his 8-track demos to a 16-track recorder, and while he re-recorded his vocals for better quality, he kept all of the original instrument tracks. This approach, using his demos as the masters, became the standard method for Collins, with the home recording serving as the blueprint for his songs. They recorded the iconic drums for In the Air Tonight using the reverse talkback method they had discovered, and decided on a dramatic, crashing drum sound at the end to contrast the song's moody and quiet beginning. And when it comes to that famous drum fill, Collins explained how it came about.
And then when we came to record, I did a drum fill into my intro, and that fill was da 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 da. And we thought, that sounds good. And it really, you know, people went like that because you're kind of lulling people in, drawing people in, and then suddenly punching them in the face with this.
What's on the record is what came out in the moment, he said. The track's massive feel was created using heavy compression, ambient mics placed far from the drums, and noise gates that enhanced the snare and toms. Now, you might have noticed that the original single version of In the Air Tonight features extra drums underneath the song until that magic drum break. Head of Atlantic Records, Ahmet Ertegun, visited the final mix in the New York cutting room. At that point, he didn't realise that the drums wouldn't come in until later, as the demo only had a drum machine throughout. He asked, "Where's the downbeat? Where's the backbeat?" Collins explained the drums would come in soon, but Ertegun pointed out, "You know that, and I know that, but the kids don't know that." So they added drums earlier in the mix and released it as a single. The vocals for In the Air Tonight were recorded using a biodynamic M88 microphone and an Allen & Heath limiter, which contributed to Collins' signature guttural sound. See, this limiter was a small device that cost maybe £100, and it had a single slider to adjust compression, and it had basic settings for attack and release. At home, Collins discovered that setting the limiter to a slow attack and fast release created a unique effect. Sharp consonants like K or T would punch through before the limiter kicked in, adding extra emphasis to certain words. So Collins used this technique throughout the song, using this limiter, this bit of equipment that cost £100, as an instrument in itself. It's genius. The song's release undoubtedly established Collins as a solo artist, reaching number 2 in the UK and 19 in the USA. Now let's talk about that urban legend. The dark lyrics of In the Air Tonight have sparked numerous urban legends and myths, particularly surrounding this verse. "Well, if you told me you were drowning, I would not lend a hand. I've seen your face before, my friend, but I don't know if you know who I am. Online theories later emerged, suggesting that Collins witnessed some sort of drowning incident. One version of the story suggests that Phil watched a man who had previously attacked his wife drown. Another version says that as a child, Phil saw a man drown someone but was too far to intervene. He supposedly hired a private detective to track the man down, sent him a free concert ticket, and then debuted the song that night with the spotlight on the man throughout the entire performance.
Unfortunately, none of it's true.
There was also a myth concerning fan mail. On the original vinyl album, there was a liner note that said, "Send all fan mail to," and then an address in Kansas City. People speculated that this address was the address of the murderer, and that Collins was having all this fan mail sent to them in some sort of weird show of revenge. It turns out, though, that address was for a PR firm that was working for Collins at the time, so much less exciting. These myths became so popular, though, that they were woven into mainstream culture. For example, Eminem referenced the legend in his song Stan. And Collins has consistently denied these stories, simply saying, "Nobody knows what the song is about, and I kind of like the mystery." Now, another song that sparked mystery and debate is Rosanna by Toto. Who exactly is Rosanna written about? Because it is written about a real person. I've made an entire video on this as well. Click over there, watch it next.